Today's guest is another person who has obviously different titles, but the most important one is that she's a science communicator. Her name is Adama Saccoh, and she is a cardiovascular science research technician. She's a blogger, but most importantly, she's a science communicator. And I'm so excited to have her join us today because we're going to be talking about what she does, why she does it. She's so passionate about this, and she's been doing it for some time. So it's really great to have a conversation with somebody who views this as important. Good evening.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Okay, I'm just checking that no one's frozen.
Yeah, no, for a moment you were frozen, but now you are with us. You look absolutely lovely.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks. All right. So thank you for joining us. When you agreed to do this, I was so excited because I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's like a real science communicator. She has a whole blog and everything where she takes it super seriously. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to share with, our scientists who wish to, consider science communication.
I'm excited. It's crazy when you say like I take it so seriously because I'm such a nervous person. So it's a bit weird. I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm happy you see it, but I'm just like, it's nothing. It's just fine. It's just a hobby. But yeah, slowly growing, saying yes, I'm a science communicator.
Yes. That's actually one of the questions I asked, I think, two of our guests, of who they introduce themselves as when they introduce themselves to people. And like you saying now that getting that title of I'm a science communicator has been a difficult one to grapple with.
Yeah, 100%. I think because I started. I wouldn't say I started science communication early. I started my blog, which is about careers and like trying to figure out what I wanted to do with science. And then the first little science communication thing I did was like a second year assignment that I was given to write about DNA or like anything you wanted to write about DNA. And I chose writing about like what did I call it? I think I called it the human road trip and like how everyone is from Africa and how we like how people got to where they are and how you can use DNA to like trace your ancestry back to Africa and stuff. So it was like really cool. I was like, this is cool. I want to do this. But I kind of let it sit for a while. And then the pandemic happened, and I was like, oh, okay, you have this science knowledge, maybe use it. Then I started using it and I slowly started just doing Twitter threads, just reading for myself mainly. And I was like, oh, okay, I can break it down because I had like conversations with my sister and she was like, oh yeah, you should do this. So I started breaking it down, and then like with me, whenever I think of something, I was like, okay, now I have this big, massive idea and I'm gonna do it. I was like, even if five people like listen and enjoy it, then I've done it. So I think I was like to my sister, oh my gosh, I want to do a survey to see how people like trust scientists. And this was like pandemic probably hit properly in March. So this was maybe like June, July, when like no one knew what was going on. Like the talk of like perception of scientists wasn't really a huge thing, but I knew it was something I really, really wanted to talk about. And then interestingly, it kind of it became a conversation going forward. And I found like when I wrote stuff, like I would see similar articles by like actual proper writers in my head. And I'm like, okay, you have good ideas. So maybe just continue and see where it takes you. So I was like, it's been fun. It's been nice to just explore something because like a creative side, but also allows me to read bits of science outside my main area of science.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. You've actually
So
already kind
yeah,
of told us
it
why
was
you
good.
started your blog and stuff like that. But let's like backtrack just a little bit, and talk about your career. How you got there, why you ended up in cardiovascular science.
Why cardiovascular research? Oh, is it paused?
Yeah, your video was paused for a second. But
Okay.
did you hear the question?
Yeah, I think you said why cardiovascular research. So I started off with the amazing idea that I wanted to do medicine, and I say this a lot. It's probably like the worst thing I could have ever like said out of my mouth, because then I was so fixated on the idea of doing medicine and becoming a doctor and all of these things. And while it is a beautiful career, I wish I knew the other options before I had like mentally chosen something I didn't know about. So I wanted to do medicine, tried to get into medicine, didn't get into medicine. But I always knew like I really liked the heart. So when I first like learned about it properly in like GCSE time, so this is like maybe how old are you? Like 15, 16. So I learned about the heart and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I like this. I learned about circulation. I was like, I'm sold. I really like the heart. And then when I went to uni, I did medical physiology. So it's about just learning about the body and disease and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it. And then I slowly started picking so modules that I did that were related to the heart because I knew it was like it's my favorite organ. For me, it's like such a simple organ, but it's so like cool. And it's like, okay, I think this is the bit I want to be in. So I continued with that. I did my master's in medical ultrasound, specializing in the heart, so scanning the heart and diagnosing patients and stuff. But then I think quite early on, I realized that maybe patient work isn't for me because I had that background in like lab work and lab research, and I had seen the hospital a bit more, and I was like, I kind of like the research aspect the most, and the reading and the thinking of new science and the applying these new tools to see if they work. Like that's the area I really like doing. And then I found this role, which is a research technician role, in like early stage of preclinical cardiovascular treatments and stuff, and then I get to scan in my day to day. So with the work I do, so that was like kind of bridging everything I liked about science in one. So I was like, okay, this is a nice space to be in for now. But yeah, so that's kind of a short tour of my whole like
Yeah.
journey.
Okay. No, it's pretty interesting that you said you initially wanted to be a medical doctor. And I keep hearing this. Most scientists, they say, oh, I actually wanted to study medicine. And then, especially the ones who end up in health research, end up keep saying, I actually wanted to be a medical doctor. And then I realized that, oh, it's actually research that I wanted to do, which is why I really appreciate that your blog focuses a lot on careers for life science graduates, because those are the people who they end up studying life sciences as a means to hopefully eventually end up in medicine. You know, they're like, well, I didn't get in first year, but if I keep studying life science, at least I'll have the necessary modules or subjects to branch into medicine eventually. You know, so I
Yeah.
really appreciate the fact that you focus a lot on life science.
Sorry, it's breaking up a bit. So I was like hearing bits and I'm really trying to focus so I can hear. So I heard up to them navigating careers and how like being a doctor is not the only option. So I think that was the gist of what you said.
Yes, yes, pretty much, you know, and I was just saying that your blog is necessary in terms of showcasing life science careers apart from medicine, like apart from a medical doctor. Because obviously medical research and a medical doctor are two different things. They're not the same thing, you know? And people tend to be like, I want to be a medical doctor, but what they actually mean is I want to be a medical.
Yeah, I think it really happened because I had no clue what I was gonna do. I was like, I'm now in a crisis because I wanted to be a doctor and I have never researched anything outside of that. So I was like, I'm gonna ask as many people. I really just went in. I was like, okay, let me ask some people. Like, hi, what do you do? Like, how did you get to where you were? Why do you do it? And what can you do next? Because I was like, I have zero clue. And then you have your parents asking you, so what are you going to do with this degree? I didn't even know what medical physiology was. I didn't like directly apply for it. So I had no clue what it was. So I'm hearing a degree that I didn't even know the name existed. Um, so yeah, I think just asking people, then seeing how receptive people were to actually give their journeys, I was like, okay, this is really cool. Maybe I should like share it. And I asked their permission and people were really happy. I disturbed like quite a lot of my friends that did similar degrees, so pharmacy, medicine. And they were happy to also share like why they did what they did. And if it wasn't for like the initial group of people that just said, yeah, and just showing me that people are receptive to sharing their journeys, it wouldn't have started. So I'm like really grateful for all those people and people that continue to like take some time out to just share that life science is a very varied field. Like even now, I don't fully even know all the careers that are out there, and it's a very mix and match thing. You can do you can end up starting in, I don't know, microbiology and end up in like bioinformatics at the end of it. You can start in maybe just regular cell biology and end up coding at the end of it and doing like AI stuff. So it's a really cool field, and like you just see what people do and like why they do it. And sometimes you just need that little reminder, or you need to like see a job title to be like, oh, okay, that describes what's in my head, because sometimes you know what you want, but you don't know how to look for it. And I was like, okay, by people sharing it and by me sharing these things, and also not focusing on the grades, because people kind of get tied into like, oh, this is the university I went to, this is the grade I got, I'm a triple A star. So I don't put grades, I try not to put the university, because I'm like, at the end of the day, it's not that important to your journey. Like follow what you want to do, don't go based on the title of the place you're going to, but really try and focus on what you want and try and like focus on the idea of like what type of career are you trying to build. So far it's going well.
Yes, well done on that. Let's move to your title that we are super interested in, and that is a science communicator title. Obviously, you spoke a little bit about why you started TCIM and all of that journey. But when we talk about science communication, how do you define it?
I think science communication, simply put, is describing how to describing research, describing what goes on in a lab to people that the lab scientists do it for, because nobody's in a lab trying to just talk to another scientist about it. Everyone that does research, like I am doing research to help XYZ. I am doing research to help cure this disease or whatever. So science communication is trying to get that information to the people that need it most. So that can be through the type of communication we're used to seeing. So in hospitals, when you're used to seeing those leaflets, that is science communication. Science communication is talking to somebody, making them understand what a scientist does, in my opinion, is science communication, because without understanding the role or the everyday process, you kind of like dehumanize scientists. So science communication is that as well. But yeah, I think it's really just talking about science to people that want to hear about it, really, in any way that you feel comfortable doing it.
And when we look at science or science communication and social media, do you think that social media can be used as a tool to communicate science, and how effectively can it be used?
I think social media as a tool is amazing, because I wouldn't have started it without social media. I don't think I would have just started writing somewhere. It's this like quick, easy, accessible tool to everybody that you can just start posting. Like you can just take a screenshot of notes on your phone and post that. Like it's such a simple medium to communicate. So I think it's this amazing platform. You can reach people in different countries. Like I'm in the UK, but I know that my communication would reach people like across the world, which is not something we could have had without social media and the internet. And then the different forms of social media get like different different ideas and different things out of people. So you get to see how creative people can be. So I'm not a TikToker. I can't do it. I don't think I can. But seeing the videos that people come up with and the ideas, it's like these people are really communicating things that I found difficult in uni and really making it clear to everybody, making it funny, making science like fun, not this hard thing. And also like giving people the information they need. I think the only like downside of social media, again, it's that anybody can post whatever they want. So it's hard to like cross-check the facts and it's really easy to go down the wrong rabbit hole. So there's this like, I don't know, there's this, you kind of have to weigh up and see. So it's really good in terms of accessibility, but it's really bad in terms of just spreading misinformation and spreading all those things, especially with COVID. You can't really control how far a post gets or who sees it. And sometimes there's this thing I think I realized with COVID science, yes, a lot of people posted it, but sometimes would it have been better for it just to be posted on a few pages rather than everybody posting and it just becoming a thing to post? Because that also happens. Like people just want to post because, okay, everyone's posting this, so I'm going to do it too. I think there needs to be kind of maybe small little bubbles of people be like, okay, we're gonna kind of focus on this page that does this and use that and just amplify that single voice instead of having too many different opinions in it. But all in all, social media is good. Like everything has its good and bad bits.
Hmm. And when you got started, obviously you mentioned that you only started your blog. The pandemic actually kind of accelerated your blog and made you be like, hey, you know what? Maybe there is a need for it. Let me get it done. In that starting of you being like, yeah, I'm going to be a science communicator now. What are some of the challenges that you faced?
I think the biggest challenge, and I think it's just my biggest challenge, is actually believing in myself and believing that I'm not like writing rubbish. So I think actually, because again, I was a master's student, I didn't feel like I was like a scientist. I was like, oh, science communicator. That means I have to claim that I'm a scientist. I don't think I'm that. Adama, stop. So I'm just like, I think really believing in myself and really saying, okay, no, what you're doing is sensible. You've actually gone and collected 2 degrees. You can write this. Like you've written work for people before. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. So I think that was my biggest hurdle in just saying, yes, this is something you should do. And I think this, yeah, that was the biggest one because in terms of the science communication like community, everyone's really, really nice. So I don't know why I was so scared. Everyone around me was so positive, like, oh yeah, you should do it, oh do it, post it. So I think it's the idea of getting in your head that to be a science communicator doesn't mean you have to be like this top-notch scientist posting in like that has published articles in journals. As long as you know um you're not like fabricating the facts and you're not being problematic, I think it's fine. And you know you're doing your research. And I think also being open to someone challenging your ideas and someone saying, oh, this is wrong, or being open to the idea that you might make a post that has a little mistake in it, but it's not the end of the world as long as when you were doing it, you had all the right intentions for it and you weren't deliberately trying to like lead people astray. So I think those are the things like getting through the mental barriers, like what makes you a qualified science communicator, I think was the hardest challenge.
Hmm. Okay. All right. That's interesting. And then when we look at the whole landscape of science communication, how do you feel it could be done better?
Um, I think it could be done better by I think there's this area of science communication that I think I just don't love. It's people trying to sell science as this beautiful, unbiased place where you can do anything. And I'm like, that's not the truth. So I think that's how it can be done better. Because even selling it to little kids and saying, oh, even as encouraging kids in science, I think it's beautiful. But we also need to remember you need to support the people that have been in science as well. So as we're communicating and as we're talking about it, I think being like fully honest, obviously without scaring people, but this idea that science is this obviously beautiful place that does nothing wrong, that everything is perfect and science is like science is checked and everyone is this, but no, science and the science world is very flawed, and that is something I guess science communicators also have to deal with, because when you're communicating things, you can be really excited about what you're communicating, but you have to go back and think about the history of what you're communicating as well, which again scientists don't do enough of. And just thinking about what community am I communicating to, and what am I saying, and why am I saying it, and am I the right person to be saying this? Can I just share someone else's post instead? Do I have to make my own and always put in my opinions? I think also knowing when to listen and when to just pause and just really take a back seat, and because I feel like a lot of people want to talk about stuff. So knowing when to take a back seat and say, okay, I'm going to listen to people that communicate it this way because they should be the ones communicating it. And I think science is, again, I say science is a very problematic place, even though I love it. So I think that is quite a challenge in terms of science communication, like battling the truth and the history behind science as Africans, as Black people in general. Like it's a very weird relationship because you understand both sides of the story. So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually like my next question, more towards Africa. I know obviously at the moment you're based in the UK, but you're from Africa. So when you look at science in Africa, what areas do you feel, you know what, we could take this and this from the West and apply it to Africa? Maybe let me narrow it down to just science communication, because that can be a very broad question. But when we just narrow it down to science communication in Africa, what tips could you be like, okay, you know what, take these tips from the West and apply it to your science communication in Africa, and this could change the landscape in such a way?
This is going to be really strange. I think Africans communicate disease-based stuff better than the West. Because
Really?
when it came to Sierra Leone and the Ebola crisis, and even like the COVID, I was looking at like how they did it and how in touch they were with making sure it was in different languages, making sure it was in the way people understood it. While the West, which is considered gold standard or whatever, was kind of a bit vague. And they were like putting graphs on TV and like graphs that weren't labeled, graphs that I didn't want to understand. So I think this pandemic has kind of shown how Africa has this uniqueness of actually listening to people and trying to actually go into communities and actually change things, because they're really good at communicating. And maybe I think Africans can learn from the West in terms of giving more people the power to communicate and not being so like, what's the word? I'm gonna say power crazy. So not fixating on this person is gonna be the voice, allowing people and allowing everybody to just communicate how they feel, and not leaving it to doctors to be the scientists and doctors to be the voice of it. I think that's something Africans can learn. But in terms of actually communicating to like communities that need the information the most, I think maybe because Africans have had to deal with a lot more crisis and a lot more regularly, that they know how to communicate and get people to listen to a message, get people to take stuff. Because even in terms of like vaccine hesitancy, I think people, again, Western headlines were all like, oh, Africans won't take it, da 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 da. And they were just trying to paint this story. I'm like, where is it coming from? Because people weren't as hesitant as you think. Like, people are more receptive to take stuff that, as long as you explain it well, they're really happy to do it and not have any problems with it. While people here were more like, oh no, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm doing that. I think Africans listen. I think African researchers, healthcare workers also listen to the people. So they should be very proud of that. And that's something that is, I think, very unique to Africa as well, which the West, again, has been really poor at doing. So I think the only thing Africans can learn is just spreading it and hopefully having more opportunities to people outside of the doctor circle to be comfortable in communicating, and encouraging communication earlier on within like degrees and courses and stuff. But in terms of communication, I think they're pretty good.
Wow, okay. That's a good one. That's a good one, because it's a very interesting way to look at it. Because just the way you've mentioned it actually makes me think that you're right. when it comes to HIV, TB, or whatever the case may be, in the different communities, it's communicated in a way that the people can understand, in the language that they don't understand, simplified in the best way, and because obviously at the end of the day, they understand maybe in that community, not everybody has like a PhD, so it doesn't make sense to come and present graphs and be like, and all these facts. It makes sense just simplify the science. So that's actually a very great way to look at it. We could go on forever,
I
that is
know.
for sure. But but we'll have to end it soon at some point. Do you have any words of advice, any tips for scientists who want to become science communicators but are thinking, I don't think, like, your thoughts. I'm not a scientist. I don't think I can do the science communication thing. What tips can you give them?
I think I watched a previous live you did, and I think what she said was just do it, and I agree. Like, I think just start. One, I think the scariest thing is thinking everyone's looking at you and is going to judge you. So realistically, as harsh as this sounds, probably nobody cares. Like, nobody really cares. So I think have that in your head that I'm just gonna do it. Nobody cares. Like, people forget about it. Nobody's trying to judge you. So just do it. If it's something you enjoy, do it. Little things like just start talking about it. Sometimes also write it for yourself and don't share it. Share it to a few people. I'm happy if people just want to try it out to be like, hey, I've written this and I'll post it on my blog. If you don't want to do the full, oh, I'm gonna pitch it to somewhere big and scared of rejection and stuff like that. So I think reach out to people that are smaller and see like, oh, hey, can I make a post like this? And people are really happy to like just have people help them. So I think just think of little ways in which you can do it. Don't think I have to make a website and I have to do all of this and I have to be prim and proper. Like, the process that suits you would come as you go along. I'm still learning so much on my process of writing stuff, my process of like if I want to do videos. And I think once you start one thing, you're like, okay, this is how I can do it better. This is how I can do it better. And then you keep going. Also, a really key factor, and don't pressure yourself. Like, you really will not die if you said you're going to post it on the 9th of October and you post it on the 10th of December. No one's no one's gonna collapse. It's fine. You didn't fail at it. I think don't pressure yourself. If you think you're overworked, just don't do it. Like, no one's gonna kill you. So I think, yeah, be confident and just try it. Don't pressure yourself and have fun. Like, just have fun with it.
Wow. Words to live by. No pressure, have fun, and nobody cares. No. So thank you so much, Adama. I really enjoyed this chat. I really wish we could chat longer, but
I
I respect your
know.
time. I've
Thank you.
everybody else's time is take. So we'll just have to like park the conversation and continue another day. Um,
Yes.
Anything else you want to say before I end this live?
Just thank you for having me and thank you for like with what you're doing. Like, I love watching them. Like, sometimes I can't watch them in time, but I watch them back. So they're really good and it's just nice to meet people that are doing cool things too. And thank you for everyone that watched it as well.
Yeah, thank you. And keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely fantastic. The only thing I really wish like your your blogs on careers could be relevant, or I could like take them and fully apply them to like the African context, because I know there's so many, especially in South Africa, there's so many life science students who are just like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. So it'd be really nice to go into what careers are available right here at home, versus abroad, but like just right here at home, what you can do. So anybody who's watching who wants to do the catalyst in me, South Africa, Africa, please start. We need it. That's for sure. That's for sure. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. We love it.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Bye. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye.